Alright, so in Chapter 7, Section 1, we're solving systems of equations. There's a couple I want to look at here and on Desmos, and then there'll be one supplemental video working out a couple problems. On number 1, it says solve the system by the method of substitution. So when you're doing a substitution, you solve for one of the variables or both, and you substitute it into the other. So I'll do a supplement for something like number 1, and for like number 4. This one's a little different. We could do a substitution method on this, but this one's just maybe a little bit more involved. Number 3 is doing a word problem. And so these are word problems that are fun to set up. You have to think about them, and it says this one, I think, solve the system of equations. And typically, if you have a word problem for me, I'm fine with you graphing them to find the solutions. But they tell us that we have a couple of different accounts that we're putting money in. I don't know what the first account is, so I'll call it X. And there's another account that I have, so let's call it Y. And I know that the total amount that I'm putting in each one of these accounts is 11,600. So that gives me one equation. To solve a system of equations, I need more than one equation. I have two variables, so I'm going to need two equations. The next one that I have is talking about how much interest I make. And so in that first account, I make 1.75%, so 0.0175 is my interest, and I would multiply that by how much I put in that account. Plus, I get additional interest from that second account. So the second one is the 2.75% times how much I put in Y. And I want that amount to equal that 278. So with these two equations, I just need to see where they intersect, right? So the intersection represents the solution. And if I'm on my standard window, I don't see a whole lot. So what I need to do is I need to think about what X and Y mean, and then change my domain and my range. What's the least amount? Whoops, let's undo that. There we go. What's the least amount that my X value could be? X is how much money I'm putting in. Well, the least, it could be a 0. The most, well, if I only have this amount of money, the most would be 11,600. And that's the same thing with Y. Y represents how much we're putting in an account and what the most it could be. And then we get a nice picture of where the intersection occurs. And we had to do some good figuring to figure out what the domain and the range values would be. So this is how much I put in the first account. This is how much I put in the second account. And that should match up to what WebAssign says. So whether we do these things algebraically or graphically, we just need to make sure we make good equations. One more to look at graphically, and so we'll just do this one on Desmos, is when you're graphing equations, like looking at number 5, we just type in what they give us. If you're used to your TI, you have to solve them for Y, but if we're using Desmos, we just type things in. So number 5, x squared minus 6x minus 27 plus y squared equals 0, right? And so I get this picture and here's my intersections. Like, there they are. These are the solutions. These 2 points are the only x and y values that will make both equations true. So we've solved the system of equations. So just plug it into Desmos would be the best way. And if there's a case on some of these that they don't intersect, that's because there's no solution. If I were to put, let's change this to like 18. When do these two things intersect? Well, they don't, right? There's no intersection, so there's not a solution to the systems of equations. We would say that a solution, there is no solution to it, or a solution does not exist.